This is the second video I've recorded about Dylan Raiola. Now, if you're a subscriber to my channel, you may wonder, where's the first video? And in fact, on that note, you need to subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so, please do. Hit the notification bell too when you subscribe, because if you subscribe and email me your mailing address between now and 1,000 subscribers, no, wow, 1,000, I'm already over 1,000 subscribers, no. At 2,000 subscribers, between now and 2,000 subscribers, if you subscribe and you email me your mailing address, I will send you something cool, something like one of these, a Casey Thompson or some other current or former Nebraska autographed player card or some cool Nebraska memorabilia. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and you hit the notification bell and email me your mailing address to doncollins@mail.com. But if you are a current subscriber, and I tell you that I've done, this is the second Dylan Raiola video, you may go, well, where's the first video? Well, the first video was never uploaded. Well, why wasn't it uploaded? It wasn't uploaded because I called my friend Connor Hayden over at Corn Crazed, read him the outline of my first video, and he said, well, I agree with this, and this, but this thing in the middle, you might want to double check because it may change your opinion, and you may have a different video at the end if you'll go check this out. And so I went and checked what Connor talked about. He was right, and I couldn't upload the video because everything I said in the second half depended on that one thing that I wasn't right about. And so I scrapped the video, and truth be told, I wish I had talked to him before I recorded the video, because after I recorded the video, I spent hours and hours and hours on something that in the end I wish I could get the time back and do the video I'm doing now instead of the one I didn't record. All of that is to say that Connor Hayden gave me some great advice, and I'm glad I talked with him. He's a knowledgeable Husker guy, but he's not just Husker guy. He's a walking encyclopedia of college football. And there are two guys that, if you're going to watch a video tonight, I would recommend you go watch Connor Hayden and Adam Carricker. Adam Carricker is the living, walking, breathing embodiment of Nebraska football. And also, and he probably wouldn't like me saying this, but I'm saying it anyway, he knows just as much about lots of other sports like basketball and baseball as he does about football. But in the life experience of Adam Carricker and the knowledge that he's got, plus a guy like Connor Hayden who has that sort of encyclopedic knowledge of the game, those are two guys I think you ought to go watch. Now, in the same way that I know my place, I'm just some guy talking about Husker football, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you watching me. I know my place. I got to research what I do. I got to work hard at this. I know, quite a bit about college football and football in general. But when I do a video about Dylan Raiola, for example, I got to dig deep, a lot deeper than some other guys might have to dig, because they know more than I do, and I'm okay with admitting that. Again, I'm just some guy on YouTube, and I know that. But one thing I know about Dylan Raiola that both Connor Hayden and Adam Carricker don't know yet is I know what it's like to raise teenage boys. I'm going to share with you a brief story about teenage boys. This might not mean anything. If you don't have teenagers, or if you're not old enough to have had teenagers, you might not understand this. But I'll tell you a quick story about my kids. When my kids were 13 and 11, my wife took a job outside the home for the first time in 15 years. Now, we homeschooled our kids, and so it was me at home running our home business with our two boys. And I very famously told my kids, hey, now that your mom's not here, it's just us three men in the house. And I said, I promise you, a lot of the shenanigans that you pulled with your mom are not happening with me. I am, and these are famous last words, I said, I am a brick wall. You are not getting over me. Things are changing around here. Now, the moment I say that, some of you who have raised teenagers, who are now 20, 30, 40 years old, some of the guys out there who have kids older than mine even, mine are 22 and 21 right now. Some of you raised, you know that sort of challenge to teenage boys, what you basically said is, let's start a war. Let's start a nuclear war. Let's have an arms race. My kids heard that, and what I thought I was saying was, you're not getting past Dad. What they heard was, okay, we're going to need some bulldozers, and we're going to need an army, and we'll need some night vision goggles and drones and B-52s. My kids, they didn't hear a wall they weren't going to get over. They heard a challenge, a wall they were going to break through or tunnel under or get around or something. That is what happens when you challenge teenagers. So, back to Dylan Raiola. I know that a lot of you think that Dylan Raiola, you think because he decommitted Ohio State, you hope he commits to Nebraska. As I do as well. Nothing would make me happier than Dylan Raiola committing to Nebraska and playing for Nebraska in 2024 and beyond. And as great as that sounds, I just want you to know, and I'm telling you anecdotally that a teenager making a decision now about anything could change his mind in the next 15 or 20 seconds given which way the wind might blow. People say that his dad is recruiting offensive linemen, and that's a good sign. His uncle is the offensive line coach, and that's fantastic too. And that, the style of football that Matt Rule is going to put in place is going to really play to his strengths. And all of this is great. And Nebraska is going to do everything it can to pull out all the stops and put a scheme around Dylan Raiola when he gets here in 2024. As exciting as that may be to think about, if Dylan Raiola decides between now and then not to come play at Nebraska for any reason, I don't care whether he commits or doesn't, he could get Nebraska forever tattooed on his arms. And if at the very last second some chick goes to some other school that he wants to go to and that tickles his fancy, he's going to that school. That's it, bottom line. And what makes it even worse in terms of getting our hopes up about this is moving forward with the NIL deals and transfer portal and all that, it makes it very easy for guys to switch. Now, all of this would be anecdote, and I could come across as just some old guy who raised some teenagers who doesn't know nothing about football. You might think that. Sometimes I think that. In fact, I am an old guy, and I did raise kids, and I'm not a genius when it comes to football all the time. But forget what I've said about this just for a moment. And I want to read to you, this is an article that was written by Michael Citro, who has a Ohio State football-based blog that he writes for. And I want to read to you what he said about Dylan Raiola decommitting from Ohio State. Nothing makes football fans lose their minds like the whims of teenagers. And so it was this week when five-star quarterback Dylan Raiola decommitted from Ohio State, denying the Buckeyes of the top 24 prospect in the nation. People all over the message boards and social media went bananas. This wasn't unexpected. Every time a player decommits from a program, that school's fans play the role of scorned lover, and many take their frustrations out in the most inappropriate ways. Some direct their venom directly at the recruit, which should never happen. But others act like it's some kind of shortcoming by the head coach. The hashtag Fire Day crowd's voice got louder this week because a high school kid changed his mind about leaving Arizona to play college football in Ohio. The same head coach who was at the helm for his May commitment was suddenly the problem. Now I want to pause for a moment. The writer of this article encapsulated exactly, and I talked to Connor Hayden about this over the weekend, and the writer from the Ohio State perspective is coming at it from an Ohio State fan, saying, listen, everyone's banging on Ryan Day right now, when this is a teenager who, again, based on his whims, has decided both to commit in May and now decommit. And it's totally legitimate. But I'm reading this to you because I want you to see the perspective, not as a Husker fan, but someone at Ohio State. The article continues. I shouldn't have to explain that this is a complicated time for college football recruiting. We don't know all the backdoor promises and deals that are going on in regard to name, image, and likeness behind the scenes. It might not be a coincidence that it's been a hot topic in OSU circles since before Raiola decommitted, and Gene Smith, Day, and the OSU coaching staff may have suspected this was in the works. But it's fair to say that whatever happened with Raiola likely had little to do with Day at all. Every college coach faces decommitments and transfers. It's a common part of the business. I want to pause here. This is what I tried to say in my video last night, and I didn't complete the thought on completely when I talked about Raiola coming to Nebraska in 2024. He could commit or decommit, say he's playing now, but so much can change between now and 2024. I don't care what Matt Rule says or doesn't say. It could come down to things that no one will ever really know the answer to, whether he plays at Nebraska or not. Article continues. Raiola's uncle is Nebraska's offensive line coach, and Matt Rule has created a buzz around that program since being named head coach, which is hardly Day's fault either. I saw one post on Twitter blaming Day for 2023 quarterback Lincoln Kienholz committing to Ohio State, as if that somehow scared Raiola off. These top prospects rarely lack the confidence of believing they'll win the job wherever they go, and fans probably shouldn't want any that don't have it. That is confidence the author's talking about. So, by the way, need to pause on this. I didn't say this in my last video, but I'll say it now. If Raiola isn't going to Ohio State, as some have suggested, because Ohio State recruited some other kid, or that Raiola thinks he might have to compete for the job. Is that lack of confidence something you'd want in a starting quarterback anyway, suggests this author, and that's a good question to ask. Article continues. There was a lot of angst about Quinn Ewers transferring to Texas, but it's not hard to imagine that whoever takes snaps for Ohio State will put up better numbers than Ewers during his career. Similarly, Raiola at Nebraska or wherever else may have an excellent football career, but I doubt the Buckeyes will be hurting at the position with Justin Fields emerging as an NFL stud, even without an offensive line, and C.J. Stroud about to go in the first round of the next draft. As long as Day is here, the quarterback play should remain at a high level, especially given the talent at wide receiver that the Buckeyes are attracting to Columbus. In fact, the number 2 player in the 2024 class, Jeremiah Smith, committed to Ohio State before Raiola decommitted. I'm not going to be concerned about the starting quarterback until one of them shows me I should be. Look, there might be some valid reasons to hold the opinion that Ryan Day shouldn't be the Ohio State's head coach, although we'll certainly have more data about that in a couple weeks. But it seems silly to call for his job over a high school kid decommitting. This article is exactly what I was talking to Connor Hayden about the other day. It's what I know as a father raising teenagers. The guy that wrote this, I think, is exactly right. And I want to touch on the third to last sentence in the article. He says, I'm not going to be concerned about the starting quarterback until one of them shows me I should be. Here's where I want to conclude this video. We've got in Nebraska right now, Casey Thompson, who we would be very lucky to have start at quarterback in 2023. We've got Jeff Sims, who I think also, although not knowing the scheme and all that, I think based on what I know, would fit in nicely just as well. We'd be very happy with Jeff Sims. Malik Hornsby, Logan Smothers, there are 4 guys who are going to vie in some way for the starting job at Nebraska. All of those players, I think, would do a great job for Nebraska in some way, shape, or form, especially if the offensive line is good. If I'm Nebraska, like this author talks about, I'm not worried about who starts in 2023, but back up 2024, until I see what we get in 2023. And like this author, I'm not going to worry about whether or not a high school kid decommits from Ohio State, even if he commits to Nebraska, because you know what? The kid that decommitted from Ohio State, that then committed to Nebraska, could just as easily decommit and go back to Ohio State if that's the way the wind blew at the time, or if Nebraska's offensive line sucks in 2023. If I was Dylan's dad, the advice I would give Dylan is go to the team that you believe gives you the best chance at not just winning games, potentially winning the Heisman, and going to the pros. If that, my friends, is Nebraska, I can't wait for Dylan Raiola to step foot on our campus in 2024. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in this video.